Used sponges. Most people throw away used kitchen sponges without a second thought. The sponge goes into the bin, a new one comes out of the pack, and the cycle repeats every few weeks. What almost nobody knows is that a cut-up sponge placed at the bottom of a plant pot is one of the most effective moisture retention tools available, and it costs nothing. Sponge material is designed to hold water and release it gradually under pressure. When buried beneath potting soil, it does exactly that, absorbing excess water during watering and slowly returning it to the root zone as the soil dries. Plants sitting in sponge-lined pots need to be watered significantly less often, and the roots never experience the cycle of flood and drought that damages them. The sponge also retains fertilizer dissolved in water, releasing it back into the soil at low concentrations over days rather than flushing it straight out through the drainage hole in a single watering. Tap water left overnight. Watering plants directly from the tap is standard practice for most people. The problem is not the water itself, it is what is dissolved in it. Municipal tap water in most countries contains chlorine and chloramine added to kill bacteria in the supply system. These same compounds do not disappear the moment water enters a plant pot. Chlorine is toxic to the beneficial microorganisms living in healthy soil, particularly mycorrhizal fungi, which form partnerships with plant roots and dramatically expand their ability to absorb nutrients. The fix is straightforward. Fill a watering can or bucket the night before and leave it uncovered. Chlorine is a gas at room temperature and escapes into the air within 8 to 12 hours. Chloramine, which is more persistent, requires standing time of 24 hours or a small piece of activated carbon placed in the water. Plants watered with treated, dechlorinated water consistently develop stronger root systems over time. Banana peels. Banana peels are thrown away by the billion every day. The average person eats around 100 bananas per year and discards every single peel. What those peels contain is potassium, the same mineral that plant fertilizers list as the third major nutrient, abbreviated K on every bag of fertilizer sold worldwide. Potassium regulates how a plant opens and closes the tiny pores on its leaves, controls water movement through its cells, and is directly involved in the production of flowers and fruit. A banana peel buried shallowly around the base of a plant or soaked in water for 48 hours to create a liquid feed releases its potassium slowly as it breaks down. Roses, tomatoes, and fruiting plants respond particularly visibly to this treatment. The peel also contains calcium and magnesium in smaller quantities, two minerals frequently deficient in container-grown plants. Coffee grounds. Coffee grounds are one of the most misunderstood plant additives. The popular belief is that they acidify soil and are therefore good for acid-loving plants like blueberries and azaleas. This is partially true for fresh, unbrewed grounds, but used coffee grounds, the kind most people actually have access to, are nearly pH neutral. Their real value has nothing to do with acidity. Used coffee grounds improve soil structure. Added to heavy clay soil, they increase drainage and aeration. Added to sandy or loose potting mix, they improve moisture retention. They also contain slow-release nitrogen, phosphorus, and trace minerals that become available as they decompose. Perhaps most usefully, coffee grounds attract earthworms. A single earthworm processes its own body weight in soil every day, and their tunneling creates natural aeration channels that roots follow. Adding a thin layer of coffee grounds to the soil surface once every few weeks reliably increases earthworm activity. Eggshells. An eggshell is approximately 95% calcium carbonate, the same compound used in agricultural lime, which farmers apply to neutralize overly acidic soil. Most home garden soils and potting mixes gradually acidify over time as organic matter breaks down and fertilizer residues accumulate. When soil becomes too acidic, plants cannot absorb nutrients properly even when those nutrients are present in the soil. Crushing eggshells finely and mixing them into the soil raises pH slowly and safely, without the risk of overliming that comes from applying commercial lime. Crushed eggshells also improve soil drainage in compacted or clay-heavy soils, functioning in the same way as perlite or coarse grit. A single household produces enough eggshells in 1 month to treat several large pots. Soaking crushed shells in water for 24 hours and using the water directly on plants provides a more immediate but gentler calcium boost. The direction of watering. The majority of people water their plants from above, pouring water directly onto the leaves and soil surface. This is the least efficient way to water almost every plant that exists. Water applied from above evaporates from the soil surface before it reaches the root zone. It also creates a wet environment on leaf surfaces where fungal spores can germinate, and it compacts the top layer of soil over time, reducing the rate at which water penetrates downward. Bottom watering, placing the pot in a tray of water and allowing the soil to draw moisture upward through capillary action, delivers water directly to the root zone, encourages roots to grow downward toward the moisture source, and keeps leaf surfaces completely dry. Studies comparing bottom-watered and top-watered plants of the same species grown under identical conditions consistently show stronger root development and lower rates of fungal disease in bottom-watered specimens. The technique is most effective for plants in pots with drainage holes. Aspirin in water. Aspirin is acetyl salicylic acid, a synthetic derivative of salicylic acid, a compound that plants produce naturally in their own tissues as part of their immune response to infection, drought, and pest attack. When a plant is stressed or diseased, it synthesizes salicylic acid internally, triggering a cascade of defensive processes, including the production of antimicrobial proteins and thickening of cell walls. Adding 1 standard aspirin tablet, crushed and dissolved, to 4 liters of water and applying it to soil activates the same defensive pathway externally. Plants treated with dilute salicylic acid solution show measurably increased resistance to fungal infections, bacterial disease, and insect damage for a period of several weeks after treatment. Research into this effect has been ongoing since the 1980s, and the mechanism is well established in plant biology. The treatment does not replace fertilizer or adequate watering. It functions specifically as a plant immune primer. Pruning at the right angle. Most people prune by cutting wherever seems convenient. The angle and position of the cut determines whether the wound heals cleanly or becomes an entry point for disease. The correct cut is made at a 45-degree angle, approximately 5 millimeters above a leaf node or bud, with the low point of the angle facing away from the bud. This slope allows water to run off the cut surface rather than pooling on it. A flat cut directly above a node retains water and increases the surface area available for fungal colonization. A cut made too far above a node leaves a stub of dead tissue that cannot be sealed by the plant's healing response and gradually rots back toward the living wood. These distinctions sound minor. Over multiple seasons of pruning, they determine whether a plant becomes increasingly bushy and productive or develops progressive dieback. Using clean, sharp tools matters as much as technique. A blunt blade crushes rather than cuts, creating a wound 3 to 4 times larger than the blade width. Cinnamon as a fungicide. Cinnamon contains cinnamaldehyde, a naturally occurring compound with broad-spectrum antifungal properties that have been documented in scientific literature since the 1990s. Applied to the soil surface or dusted onto fresh-cut surfaces when propagating cuttings, cinnamon acts as an effective inhibitor of the mold and fungal species responsible for damping off, a condition that kills seedlings at the soil line within days of germination. Damping off is caused primarily by Pythium and Rhizoctonia species and is the leading cause of seedling death in home propagation. Commercial growers use synthetic fungicides. Home gardeners can apply a thin layer of ground cinnamon to the soil surface around seedlings immediately after germination to achieve a similar protective effect. Cinnamon also promotes callus formation on cut stem surfaces during propagation, which accelerates rooting. A single jar of cinnamon bought for the kitchen contains enough material to treat dozens of pots. Hydrogen peroxide. A 3% hydrogen peroxide solution, the same concentration sold in pharmacies as a wound antiseptic, diluted further to a 1% solution in water, is one of the most effective soil treatments available for reviving an overwatered plant with root rot. Root rot is caused by anaerobic bacteria and water molds that colonize root tissue when soil is kept saturated. When dilute hydrogen peroxide is applied to the soil, it decomposes rapidly into water and oxygen. The oxygen release kills anaerobic pathogens which cannot survive in oxygenated conditions, while simultaneously aerating the root zone and promoting recovery of damaged root tissue. The treatment also eliminates fungus gnat larvae, which live in the top few centimeters of moist soil and cause root damage by feeding on fine root hairs. A single application of dilute hydrogen peroxide eliminates an entire generation of larvae within 24 hours. The solution must be diluted correctly. Concentrations above 3% damage root tissue directly. Mulching. The surface of bare soil in a plant pot or garden bed loses moisture at a rate that most people dramatically underestimate. On a warm day with low humidity, an unprotected soil surface can lose the equivalent of several millimeters of water depth per hour purely through evaporation. A layer of mulch, bark chips, straw, dry leaves, or even a thin layer of gravel placed on the soil surface reduces evaporation by up to 70% by creating a physical barrier between the soil and the air. Mulch also moderates soil temperature, preventing the extreme heating that occurs when dark soil sits in direct sun and damages shallow roots. As organic mulch decomposes, it adds humus to the soil, improving its structure and water-holding capacity over time. The one consistent mistake with mulching is applying it directly against plant stems, where retained moisture promotes rot at the crown. A small gap of several centimeters between the mulch layer and the stem eliminates this risk entirely. Talking to plants. The idea that talking to plants helps them grow has been treated as a harmless myth for decades. The research behind it is more serious than the reputation suggests. Plants do not process language or respond to meaning. What they respond to is carbon dioxide and vibration. Human speech produces a continuous stream of carbon dioxide directly toward whatever the speaker is facing, and during photosynthesis, carbon dioxide is the raw material plants convert into sugar. A plant spoken to regularly from close range receives a measurable boost in localized carbon dioxide concentration. Vibration experiments conducted at the Royal Horticultural Society and several university botany departments have found that plants exposed to regular low-frequency sound vibrations, in the range produced by a speaking human voice, show faster germination rates and increased stem elongation compared to control plants grown in silence. The effect is small but consistent. Bass frequencies appear to be more effective than higher ones, which may explain why some gardeners report better results with music than with speech. Wiping leaves. The leaves of most indoor plants accumulate a layer of household dust within a few weeks of being cleaned. This dust layer is invisible at first, but measurable. Even a thin coating of particles reduces the amount of light reaching the leaf surface by between 5 and 10%. For plants already growing in suboptimal light conditions, near windows that receive indirect light, or in rooms without south-facing exposure, this reduction is significant. Chlorophyll molecules in the leaf cells can only convert light that actually reaches them. Blocked light means reduced photosynthesis, reduced sugar production, and slower growth. Wiping leaves gently with a damp cloth once every 2 to 3 weeks restores full light absorption and also removes the microscopic eggs and early-stage colonies of spider mites, which prefer dusty leaf surfaces. Large-leafed plants like monsteras, rubber trees, and peace lilies benefit most visibly from regular leaf cleaning. Rice water. Water drained from rinsed or cooked rice contains a concentration of starch, B vitamins, and minerals, particularly phosphorus and potassium, that the grains release during washing. Applying this water to plants rather than discarding it delivers a mild but complete nutrient solution directly to the root zone. The starch in rice water also acts as a prebiotic in soil, selectively promoting the growth of beneficial lactobacillus bacteria, which are involved in breaking down organic matter into plant-available nutrients. Fermented rice water left to sit at room temperature for 24 to 48 hours until lightly sour, has a stronger effect due to the proliferation of these bacteria during fermentation. It should be diluted before use to avoid over-application. Gardeners in Japan and several Southeast Asian countries have used rice water on vegetables and ornamental plants as a standard practice for generations, long before the mechanism was understood scientifically. Pot size. Choosing a pot that is too large for a plant is one of the most common reasons houseplants fail to thrive. The intuitive assumption is that more soil means more nutrients and more room for roots to grow, and therefore a larger pot is always better. The opposite is true for most species. When a plant is placed in a pot significantly larger than its root ball, the excess soil around the roots stays wet for extended periods after watering, because the roots are not yet extensive enough to absorb moisture from the outer zones. That persistently wet root-free soil becomes the ideal environment for Pythium, Phytophthora, and other root rot pathogens. The standard recommendation is to move plants up by no more than 5 centimeters in pot diameter at each repotting, allowing the roots to colonize the new space before the next size increase. A plant that appears to be growing slowly in an appropriately sized pot is almost always healthier than one that appears vigorous in an oversized one. Neem oil. Neem oil is pressed from the seeds of the neem tree, native to the Indian subcontinent, where it has been used in agriculture for over 2,000 years. The active compound is azadirachtin, which disrupts the hormonal systems of insects at every stage of their life cycle: egg, larva, and adult, without affecting mammals, birds, or beneficial insects like bees when applied correctly. Unlike synthetic pesticides, insects do not develop resistance to azadirachtin because its mechanism targets fundamental biological processes rather than specific receptor sites. A diluted neem oil solution applied to leaves, typically 2 milliliters of oil per liter of water with a small amount of dish soap as an emulsifier, controls aphids, spider mites, whiteflies, and thrips simultaneously. It also has antifungal properties against powdery mildew and certain leaf spot diseases. Neem oil degrades rapidly in sunlight and soil, leaving no persistent residue, which is why it is approved for use in organic agriculture in most countries. Grouping plants together. A single houseplant placed alone in a room maintains the humidity level around it, determined entirely by the ambient air. Group several plants together and immeasurably different microclimate forms around them. Each plant continuously releases water vapor through its leaves through a process called transpiration, and grouped plants release this moisture into a shared space, raising localized humidity levels significantly above the surrounding room. Tropical plants, which evolved in environments where humidity rarely drops below 50%, are particularly sensitive to dry air and develop brown leaf tips, closed stomata, and slowed growth in standard indoor conditions where humidity is often below 30%. Grouping plants raises the immediate surrounding humidity by 10 to 20% without any additional equipment. Adding a tray of water and pebbles beneath grouped plants amplifies the effect further as the water evaporates between and beneath the pots. Epsom salt. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, a compound unrelated to table salt and non-toxic to plants at appropriate concentrations. Magnesium is the central atom in every chlorophyll molecule. Without adequate magnesium, chlorophyll cannot be synthesized, photosynthesis is impaired, and leaves develop a characteristic pattern of yellowing between the veins while the veins themselves remain green. This condition, called interveinal chlorosis, is common in roses, tomatoes, peppers, and many houseplants grown in containers where nutrients are not replenished between waterings. Dissolving 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt in 4 liters of water and applying it once a month corrects a deficiency within 2 to 3 weeks. The sulfate component is also a secondary nutrient involved in amino acid production. The mistake most gardeners make is applying Epsom salt preventatively in large quantities. Excess magnesium competes with calcium uptake and causes its own deficiency symptoms. It works when deficiency is the actual problem. The right soil for the right plant. Standard all-purpose potting mix is formulated for a broad middle range of plants and is not the optimal medium for anything in particular. Succulents and cacti store water in their tissues and have evolved to live in soils that drain within seconds of rainfall. Standard potting mix retains moisture for days and will rot their roots. Orchids are epiphytes. In nature, they grow attached to tree bark, not in soil at all, and require a chunky, open medium of bark chips and perlite that allows air to circulate around roots between waterings. Blueberries, azaleas, and camellias need genuinely acidic soil below pH 5.5, which standard potting mix does not provide. African violets require an extremely lightweight mix to avoid compaction around their delicate surface roots. Using the correct medium for each species is not an advanced technique. It is the baseline condition for the plant to function. Every other intervention, whether fertilizer, pruning, or pest control, is less effective if the growth medium is wrong. Patience after repotting. Repotting a plant is a significant physical disruption. Root tips are broken, the fungal network connected to the root system is severed, and the plant is placed in an unfamiliar soil environment with different moisture characteristics. The standard expectation is that a repotted plant will immediately begin growing faster in its new, larger pot with fresh nutrients. In reality, almost every plant goes into a recovery phase after repotting that lasts between 2 and 6 weeks. During this period, the plant directs its energy entirely toward root repair and re-establishment rather than above-ground growth. Leaves may yellow, new growth may stall, and the plant may look worse than before repotting. Fertilizing during this phase adds unnecessary chemical stress to an already compromised root system. The correct approach is to keep the plant in stable, moderate conditions, consistent temperature, appropriate indirect light, and only enough water to prevent the soil from fully drying out, and wait. Plants that receive no intervention during the recovery phase consistently emerge into a stronger growth phase than those that are fertilized, moved, or otherwise disturbed immediately after repotting.